It is week 21 on the Appalachian Trail, and we are steps away from crossing into our third to last state. We are about to step into the state of Vermont, and we couldn't be more excited.
Made it to Vermont! And I love Vermont, but it's the season of the trail. And I guess the Vermud literally starts right when you get here. Maybe it won't be so bad down there. But right here, Vermont welcomes you with mud.
We had made it to Vermont, the third to last state along the Appalachian Trail, and it welcomed us with mud and views of these absolutely gorgeous blue bead lilies that I had never seen before.
What'd you say?
We love a good sheeter.
Oh yeah.
We had only been in Vermont for a few miles, but I was already loving the gorgeous views, the lakes, and just the peace that I felt being in yet another state.
Prettiest beaver pond I've ever seen.
Everywhere I looked, it was lush and green, and there was rivers and lakes and ponds and mountains, and I was just absolutely loving it. Besides the iconic Vermud, I had heard wonderful things about the state of Vermont and also the Long Trail.
The trail is a river. Where that water is running, that's where we're walking.
Which follows the AT, or I guess the AT follows the Long Trail for about 100 miles. After leaving Massachusetts and heading into Vermont, we weren't too far ahead from some of our favorite trail friends, but we were meeting some of my two bestest friends at the Inn at Long Trail in Killington, Vermont, and they were going to spend about 4 to 5 days and 50-ish miles hiking with us. So we were trying to get ahead because we knew we would slow down a little bit so that my friends could keep up with us in our hiker legs. We weren't meeting them until the end of the week, so until then we were just keeping up a good steady mileage while still trying to enjoy everything and all the beauty that Vermont had to offer us. Like this absolutely stunning sunrise. I will say one thing about the trail is it has made me appreciate waking up early in the morning. I never used to be a morning person, but out here I kind of like it. I don't remember exactly where we were in this moment in time, but I remember taking video of this stream, and I'm pretty sure that I was just taking my time and enjoying the moment because Barbie had stopped somewhere behind me to write a poem that he came up with for our friend Smoke Master. Barbie had decided, I think it started in the Mason-Dixon line, or actually even before then when we used to leave trail messages for our Tramley members, Ozark and Barebag, before they got off trail. But anyways, we would leave sweet notes, and Barbie then got to the point where he would leave silly, maybe not all the time appropriate poems for our male hiking friends, and they loved them, and honestly, they were hilarious. But this one about Smoke Master was not necessarily silly, joking, inappropriate, but it was really fun, and he decided that he would leave it at the, and by leave it I mean he would write it in the shelter log.
Climbing up Stratton Mountain has been absolutely stunning.
So I guess if you ever come across the shelter logs from the 2023 Thru hikers and you see it signed Barbie, you might want to read it because it might be a hilarious little poem that he wrote. Now, back to climbing Stratton. Stratton was one of my all-time favorite mountains that we climbed probably the entire trail, definitely in Vermont. I mean, it just looked like a fairy tale to walk through this mountain. It was lush and green, and then when we finally reached the top,
The Stratton Mountain Fire Tower is beautiful.
Now, we were really lucky to get a beautiful, crystal clear day up here at the Stratton Fire Tower. I had friends who were up here on a foggy day and didn't see anything, so I can completely understand if somebody didn't love this spot. But for me, seeing it like this and getting that gorgeous climb up the mountain, oh my gosh, it's still one of my favorite moments and memories from the trail. We stayed up on the fire tower for a good long while because I could not get over this view and that we were catching it on such a perfect crystal clear blue sky day. And I was just, it was one of those moments that I was in awe that I was out here and got to enjoy this kind of thing every day. It was so wild to me that later on when we ran into people that we knew at the shelter that they told us that they just did the trail around this. They didn't go all the way up to the fire tower just because they wanted to get to the shelter faster. I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I was amazed because, I mean, I can understand maybe on a rainy day, but on a beautiful day like that, I couldn't understand why you would want to miss out on that kind of view just because you didn't want to climb a hill. But anyways, I'm also a purist and I couldn't miss any blazes, and I definitely wasn't missing any views, especially when they had the potential to look like that. As we walked down the other side of Stratton, I was once again treated to this glorious, beautiful forest scenery that made me feel like I was inside of a fairy tale. After a long descent down Stratton Mountain through the little fairy tale world of a trail, we reached Stratton Pond and also the shelter there. We were going to stay at that shelter that night, but we couldn't resist going to enjoy the pond, and it looks too big to be a pond, but it was so crystal clear that I couldn't resist taking a swim. The water was ice cold. It was so cold, but I also knew, I was like, when was the next time that I'm going to get to swim in a pond, in Stratton Pond, for it to be exact, in Vermont, while through hiking the Appalachian Trail. I was like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I have to go do it. So, and I went into Stratton Pond. Barbie was obviously heckling me a little bit because I was taking a few moments to work up to putting my full body in the ice cold water. It wasn't a long swim because I wanted to be able to get out and for myself to dry afterwards, but it was magical and I loved every second I was in that freezing cold water. BGLT. We had gone into Manchester Center in Vermont, and this spot was absolutely delicious.
This burger is delicious.
We had been debating about stopping between either Bennington or Manchester Center, and a friend of ours who is from Vermont told us to stop in Manchester Center, and her advice was correct, and it was such an adorable town, and it was where I got to try my first ever maple creamy, which was absolutely to die for. Why has no one ever told me about these before? They're now one of my favorite treats ever, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna live without them.
My first ever maple creamy. So good. Vermont. Why did I not know this existed? This is amazing. So good.
The same place where I got my maple creamy, called the Maple Reserve, they also had matcha and taro boba tea, and it was very rare to find boba tea on the trail.
Boba and maple creamies. This is the best. I love Manchester.
After I had probably overdone my fill of treats, we had to go check out the Northshire bookstore, which we had heard about and seen, and they are known for this iconic book arch and their many, many spots filled with books. It lived up to its hype, and it was absolutely adorable, and it was very hard to not want to carry books on the trail, but we were not doing that because we did not want our packs any heavier than they already were. And when I tell you this bookstore had rooms of books, I really do mean rooms of books. And there were so many. It's honestly wild to me how being on the trail reignited my love for reading, especially because being on the trail, I couldn't really read physical books, which I am definitely a physical book kind of gal. After leaving the bookstore, we slowly started to think about meandering back to trail because we were not spending the night, and we walked through the Manchester Farmers Market, which was absolutely adorable, though it did not have as many food vendors as I am used to with my North Carolina farmers markets. Climb out of Manchester Center led us up Bromley Mountain, which at the top of Bromley Mountain is a ski mountain because Bromley Mountain is a ski mountain in the winter, and at the top I ski, but I've never been to Bromley. I ski in North Carolina, and it was really cool to see it all green and to see these beautiful, stunning views that you usually only see in the winter.
We're camping at Bromley Mountain, which is a ski resort, and it's very cool to see a ski resort when it's green and not full of snow.
Bromley had not really a shelter, but kind of a hut on top that I think is where the ski instructors and the lift people stayed, and hikers could stay there, but it was already full, so we just set up our tent outside and we were going to enjoy camping on the top of a ski mountain, though it did kind of look like a storm was coming in, so we were hoping that it wouldn't be too bad considering we were kind of exposed out here. Also, I am sorry, but also not sorry about how many videos I have of the views up here. I just think it's so cool to have the blue, cloudy skies and the green grass and the flowers with the ski lift in the horizon. To go back to why we didn't stop in Bennington and Manchester Center, there were two reasons. One is that up north it was getting more and more expensive, and so we were trying not to stop if we didn't have to, even though I did like to explore small towns, so if we could make a short trip, we did, but also because we were meeting up with some of my bestest friends at the end of the week, and so we somewhat had, again, a bit of a deadline to keep moving. So we were trying to keep moving, but also enjoy ourselves. So we spent a half day in Manchester Center, and it was amazing, and I do hope to one day go back and spend more time there. The next morning when we woke up, it had rained overnight, and there had even been some lightning, and it was calm again in the morning, but we could tell it was going to storm. So we didn't want to leave and get stuck in a storm on the way down the mountain, so we hunkered with the others in the little hut on top of the mountain. We waited for a while, and when we finally thought that it was safe to go out and that the storm had passed, we started heading out the door and down the mountain. And unfortunately, it started torrentially raining when we were about a half mile from the next shelter. And it was not just raining, but it was thundering and lightning, and it was probably the scariest lightning that we had experienced on the trail. It was the kind of lightning where I had counted 1,000 and there was a giant boom that shook the earth. The rain had come on so quickly that I hadn't even had the chance to put on my rain jacket, and we got to the shelter in the middle of the day absolutely drenched and soaked. And some southbounders had the audacity to ask us if we knew what rain jackets were. And let me just tell you that after we had come that far, for them to have not come very far and to say that was a bit annoying. But anyways, we walked onwards and we made it to Griffith Lake that night, where it was still stormy, but we were dry for the evening mostly. And then the next morning we woke up to just fog, which I will take over the torrential rain. Honestly, some days I really enjoyed walking in the fog. It had an extra little mystical feel to it. The little rock cairn garden. While this is very cool, I also hate it because critters live under rocks. You should leave them alone. Will I ever get over how cool the suspension bridges are on the Appalachian Trail? Probably not. I just love how different they all are and how they lead to amazingly beautiful views just like this. And the rain had seemed to make this water extra powerful. Coming out to the next road crossing, we were gifted with the most yummy trail magic of like hamburgers, hot dogs, and dessert, which we know that I love. And we were always so grateful for the kindness of strangers. Vermont then gifted us with another treat, which was this adorable little farm stand that we just fell in love with. One of my favorite things on trail is finding cute little hidden gems. And this little farmstead, Stone's Throw in Vermont, is absolutely adorable. They are out of chocolate milk, which makes me want to cry. But I did get ice cream and goat cheese, and I'm gonna grab some other fun goodies. And it is just so cool, and the owners are so sweet. So yeah, whether you're doing the long trail or the AT or just driving through Vermont, you should definitely check this little spot out. Seriously though, one of my favorite things about being on the trail was finding all of these magical little spots like this farm stand that had so many goodies, and it was so fun to be able to take some of them back to trail. Only about 500 miles left. This is a very exciting and very sad sign, but still exciting to see it. 500 miles to go. I technically think this is for Sobos, but I'm still celebrating it. And then shortly after finding the 500 mile marker, we found the 1700 mile marker, which we were excited to see. 1700! We couldn't find the marker, so we made our own. Woo! Less than 500 miles to go. Let's do this. 1700. And And then we had made it to the top of Killington Peak, which technically is not on the trail, but when we passed this spot along the trail, we knew we had to climb the Blue Blaze up to see the view. So we dropped our packs at the bottom, kind of hidden, and then we climbed up to see this absolutely stunning view and the ski lift. The views from ski mountains up here are just spectacular. And then it was time to head down Killington and into the Inn at Long Trail so that we could meet my two friends. That was where we were meeting them, and that is where, after we showered and did some laundry, we would start our week-long 50-mile adventure with them.
Oh, this is a nice sign.
It was so good to see my friends and to get some real food, and I can't wait to take them along for week 22 on the Appalachian Trail.